ladies and gentlemen, live from the broken down, low rent, sleazy, double greasy pirate radio Nut Hut Studios. It's time for the very first ever Southern.
CPR street gang, this is all mighty. Standing by, over. CPR street gang, this is all mighty. Standing by, over.
Right now, it's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines,
clocks run out. Time's up.
Wind is blowing cold and dark. On the road and no way out. A broken house, a smoking gun. On the run. On the run.
I want my job, Mr. Jones.
Bobby,
Bobby.
You don't act like it, Bobby. Look, each week a new emergency. You've had every disease known to man, and I haven't seen one damn doctor's note.
I just lose them sometimes.
Bobby, this ain't the poot butt league, man. Ain't no poot butts around here. This is not your average hot dog stand. You know what this is? This is Winky Dinky Dog.
I know, and I'm glad to be working here at Winky Dinky Dog.
Yeah, it sends chills down my spine every time I say it. Winky Dinky Dog. Bobby, say it with me, come on.
Winky Dinky Dog.
Winky Dinky
Dog.
Yeah, ooh. I like that.
Mr. Jones, it's not that I'm not happy working here. It's just that acting allows me to be creative.
Bobby, you can create here. I created the Winky Dinky Dog. 100% beef. Winky Dinky hamburger. Winky Dinky donut. Winky Dinky dip. And I got a new one, Bobby. The Winky Dinky whole cake.
Whole cake.
Whole cake. Hoes got to eat too, right?
Right, you're right.
That's right. Hoes got to eat. I hate to
Hoes
lose you,
gotta
Bobby.
eat too.
Big thing coming up. Go and talk to him, man.
Yes, they
Winky
do.
Dinky whole cake.
What's up to me?
It's Tuesday night.
You feel that?
Dr. Shush, the outlaw neurologist, Dr. Kevin McCarran's here. My name's Jimmy. You found it. It's into the microcosm, the elusive unicorn of the alternative media. That's right. And we are on the air.
Drowning deep in my sea of loathing, broken your servant I live. Will you give it to me? It seems what's left of my human side is slowly changing in me. Will you give it to me? Looking at my own reflection, when suddenly it changes, violently it changes. Oh no, there is no turning back now. You've woken up the demon. Yeah, man.
It's 10 minutes past curfew. Why are you still up?
Political and religious leaders that have shocked this city over the
Hello?
last month seem to
Hello?
have ended suddenly as they began. No
Perhaps you need another
terrorist
shot.
group will take responsibility for the slayings, but police have a suspect in custody under observation at a state hospital.
Should do it.
His identity is being withheld pending further investigation. Sports and weather next.
Sweet dreams, you bastard.
I remember now. I remember how it started. I can't remember yesterday. I just remember doing what they told me. Epic Journeyman. Are you there? Somewhere. He was there. It appears that he is not there. Let me see if I can remedy that situation. Rare is the moment when Epic Journeyman is not there. So we'll see if we can get him on the horn. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Clyde Lewis listeners. Great show, Clyde. Sick of being under the gun, man.
I am here.
Excellent. There you go, man. So, yeah. So how you doing, man? Everything's okay over there? No lava flows? Well, it's all good so far.
I was on hold on the other Skype call, apparently.
Apparently. I don't know what happened to you, but there you are. The doc is in the green room getting ready to come on board. So I just want to get the ball rolling here. Say hello to everybody from Clyde Lewis Show. Thanks for joining us. This is Into the Microcosm. It is Tuesday night. It is Tuesday, isn't it? Yeah, it is Tuesday.
I think so, man. It was a long week last week. I hit that time warp. I could be anywhere right now.
I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. It's getting to that point. It's all bleeding together. It was funny earlier. It's like Clyde was doing his show, and he goes, yeah, man, they said 2 weeks, man. It's been 2 years, so, 2 years of our lives have just fucking been flushed completely down the toilet. Nothing good has come out of it at this point. Anything good that did come out of it has been lost in a sea of despair and bad vibes, man. Everybody's
just
pissed.
Remember.
I know, man. It's like it's almost at this point, there's been so much fog and gas pumped into the agreement reality that it's almost like you can't even remember what it was like. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, man. I've pretty much had about enough of it all, really. I mean, I don't mean, at all, like that. I mean, I've had enough of this constant barrage of bad news, just like Clyde was talking about. It's like being under the gun all the time, man. Your adrenal glands are pumping. You're ready to, everybody's ready to bolt or kick someone's ass. People are going nuts, man. I mean, I was driving down the road yesterday, and there was somebody sitting next to me at the light. And they just decided they were going to cruise on over into my lane. Like no blinker or nothing. Just like, just turned left right into my lane and just cruised over there. It's a good thing I was paying attention. Because had I not been, there would have been some crinkling metal going on. And it wasn't going fast enough that there wouldn't have been an ass kicking directly after that. Someone would have got their ass kicked because they weren't paying attention. It's like somebody might have gotten, literally just drug out of their car by their neck at that point. And if you hit somebody from behind and it doesn't matter, you're always at fault. So there's going to be whiplash. So if you hit somebody from behind and there's going to be whiplash, you might as well go up there and shake them like a rag doll. Make sure they're going to get the whiplash. That's what I'm saying. But you can tell, Epic Journeyman, old Jimmy's a little red ass tonight, isn't he? I'm ready to, don't make any sudden moves because I'll be like, I got reflexes like a cat, man. I strike.
You're telling that story about somersaulting over the curb there.
Dude, that was, I still can't.
Maybe that's a positive thing to happen in the last 2 years. You've increased your cat-like reflexes to the point of superhuman.
I think it was because I was sitting in the VR, man, and when I was in there, I was doing all kinds of somersaults and jumping up and killing zombies, man.
You got to be quick. Yeah,
busting heads with baseball bats, stabbing people with pitchforks, shooting people, blowing shit up. I mean, and it still wasn't enough. Like, you would think I'd go in there and get my aggressions out, and I come back out and I'm peaceful, like Zen-like. But no, it's almost like it had the opposite effect, man. I don't know. I was telling you earlier, when we bring the doc on, I'm going to talk to him about this. Because, typically I don't dream, and I honest to God, I have not spent that much time in that VR. to like be dreaming about it. But literally the other night I had a dream about VR, and in the dream about VR, I looked around me and I could tell it was fake, and I knew it was a fake dream, and I knew I was in VR, so I was dreaming about being in VR, and I was dreaming about being in VR. It's literally crazy. It's like taking a picture of myself, taking a picture of myself. You know
Wait
what I
till
mean?
you wake up in VR.
It's crazy.
I've had that happen. Playing a game and you fall asleep, right? You know, you're just zone out and you fall asleep. And then next thing you know, you wake up, you're looking all around. And of course, you're seeing what you were just playing, but you were just dreaming about. And you're still in VR. I mean, it's totally Inception stuff
It's insane.
right there, man.
I mean, there's no way to tell, but except I could tell in my dream that it was phony. They were trying to slip me a fake dream. And it's funny that I'd be dreaming it I dreaming the VR not looking right. And everything else in my dream is looking right, except for the VR thing. You see what I mean? That's what's even weirder about it, is that I was dreaming about the anomaly of the VR that doesn't look real when I'm in VR. So I noticed it, and I distinguished it from the quality, from the rest of the make-believe dream I'm in. In other words,
right, there's something wrong with the display.
Right,
The quality
so
wasn't
my
right.
dream
Yeah.
reality that I'm creating is perfect, and I'm dreaming about the VR reality where it's supposed to be like a dream, but it's not perfect. So I don't know. It's kind of strange anomaly that I noticed. Well, let's get the doc in here. It's in the microcosm.
They destroyed the world. They destroyed the world.
Hey, Doc. Are you there? It's good to see you, Doc, man. You look healthy. Is that what, did you get a new hat? I don't hear you. You're not there. But, Epic Journeyman, you there? Let's make sure it's
I am here.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's you, Doc. No, we don't hear you. Huh. That's weird.
We're getting good at the lip reading, though. We can kind of tell.
I know. I know. Do you do signing? No, seriously, we don't hear you, bro. Anyway, while we get this figured out, Epic Journeyman, why don't you jump in here and let me figure out what's going on with the doc.
Okay, maybe he's on hold. I was on hold when we started the show.
Nah, I'll tell you what, Doc, I'll call you right back. I hung up on him, man.
I heard an echo. I heard the echo, but
What
not
about
the original.
Okay.
There you are.
Yeah.
Hey.
Sounds good.
All right, there you go, bro.
Just we're chatting on Skype. How can I tell the
I don't know, but we got you covered now, though. So there you are, and here we are, and it's Aftermath FM, and there's Doc McCarran. Hey, Doc, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
Yeah. Good to see you, bro.
I was saying, is that a new hat or is that an old hat?
It's that old hat. It's getting cold here now. Well, not cold, but you know, it's summer baseball caps don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
There's not enough foliage on top to insulate the.
I get you. Well, it's been freezing cold here. It's been raining, and it's always damp up here in Northern California. So, you know, it may not seem cold from a degree perspective, but it's freezing cold, man. When it's like 45, starting to get down to 40. It's damp. It's been raining. We had like...
I don't understand those temperatures. I work in metric, all that. Even though I've got a British accent, I should be all into Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
They got me at a young age.
Well, what's on your radar this week, Doc? You got anything important that's, you know, on the tip of your tongue, on the forefront of your your
You
cranium.
mean things like the life-changing shitstorm that's pumped at us every day? Apart from that, you mean?
Yeah, no, I mean that. I mean, you can include that too. Yeah, man. Seriously, but no, I mean, I mean, just from a psychological perspective, we are all very tired of what's been going on, and it was interesting because, hey, Cybermaster, hey, Amelia, what's going on? What's up, DJ? What's up, everybody over in the chat room in the Microcosm Jimmy Jean Strike Zone on YouTube? So it's interesting that Clyde mentioned something called languishing, and people just not wanting to do anything. Like people just like not wanting to do their laundry, not wanting to, anything that takes energy. People just lapping and napping around, sleeping, and I know lots of people that are doing it. It's not just, here and there or even occasional. It's literally people are finding that they got to just sit down and take naps after just barely any kind of physical exertion.
Yep.
Does this have to do with being emotionally spent, or what? I mean, does this have something to do with this particular virus mechanism, or I mean,
Could
what's
be
going on?
Multiple factors. The long hauler syndrome we know can emerge even with asymptomatic infection. There's definitely a psychological mind job being done on people, and the dojo link is dead. Has my stream gone down? Really?
Well, listen, while you figure that out, I'll tell you guys, I'm gonna share a personal story with everybody on the air tonight. So my mom's not doing too well right now. So my mom's gonna have to go in the hospital at the end of the week. She's gonna have to have a pacemaker put in. All right. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on around that, but I'm not bringing this up because of that, but I'm just bringing it up so you have a little background to understand. So the hospital says she needs to come down there and get a test today. So I said, hey, Ma, hey, let me drive you over there, this and that. So I went over there with her. And on the way over there, I say to her, if you're vaccinated, why do you have to get a test? Because you have a card that says you're vaccinated. If you're vaccinated, why should you need a test? Doesn't make sense. If you need the test, then the vaccination didn't work. You know what I mean? And I said to her, it's a good thing you didn't, get that booster or whatever. Right? In the conversation, that's what I say to her. So, yep. Turns out she did, and I didn't know about it. But I mean, it's her health choice. I didn't try to say anything to dissuade her from doing anything. It's her choice. But here's the thing. We get to the place, right? We pull in there, dude. It's number one, it's outside in the parking garage. There's people that are sitting out there at these stations with these computer screens and shit. They're sitting out there in full on like hospital gown like they're going into an operating room. Full on gloves, plastic clear face shield over the top of your face with goggles. Okay? Now, you come up, they go, okay, yeah, what's your name? Da-da-da-da. They run you through the program. They take out this little container, plastic, bag. It's got this big green label on it with a number. So that must be your database number for, to go along with your name. So, but here's the thing. The whole time, I'm just expecting she's just going to go in there for this quick little nasal swabby thing, right? The quick thing that when I went down to get a job that I had to go get, they just go around the inside of your nostril. And so we pull up, and my mom goes, my mom's all, be gentle or whatever. And I go, what do you, and I'm thinking, why is she saying this? And then all of a sudden, this lady comes in. She's got this, 9-inch swab. And she jams it into my mom's nose. And I'm in the driver's seat. We're in the car. She jams it in my mom's going, ah, like this. And I look over and I'm like, what the I go, what? And the lady goes, now it's in my mom's head, hanging out of her face. And the lady's going, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then pulls it out. I'm sitting there going, I mean, I didn't even know what to say. I'm like, why are you giving my mom that test, man? But at that point, I mean, what? She doesn't know anything, right? It's like, who am I talking to? It's like asking the bellboy a question at the hotel about why something's just the way that it is. You know what I mean? This lady wasn't, guarantee you. Now, these jobs, they're all over Craigslist, man. These people that are doing this shit, they ain't doctors. They're not even nurses. Okay? They're just people. Just like us. They just need a job. Just like Winky Dinky Dog at the beginning of the show. It's the same thing. It's $20 an hour. I go down there and jam some swabs up in some people's heads. And I mean, I don't mean to be overly descriptive of the scene that was going on, but you can imagine what was going through my mind, man, in a situation like that. It was horrifying, man. You know what I mean? I mean, there's nothing the matter with my mom either. She's not sick or stupid or senile or anything like this. She's normal. She's got some issues going on with her heart, but I'm just saying, she wasn't going for no reason. You know what I mean? So anyway, if you look up the old instruments for lobotomy, it looks just like that, man. You know what I mean? Anyway.
Wow, that's where they would go, up through your orbitofrontal bone, either through your eye, usually the eye.
Mm-hmm.
To go through the nose would be a bad idea, I guess. But if you're not trained in doing these techniques, then you can cause serious damage. And the assumption is when you're putting something in the nose that it's going to go up, right?
Yeah.
It isn't. You have to sort of put it horizontally, and people just, I've seen it 100 times because I had to train people to
do it.
Nasogastral feed monkeys, right?
Yeah.
And they don't get it. I don't know. Some people just have the touch in their hands and they'll find it, but it's like good 60% would fail on the tube feeding test. So I have no doubt that the minimum.
It's not easy. Yeah, it's not easy, and and the thing is like the lady doesn't know any different. She said that's the test the hospital ordered, right? So I'm thinking to myself, it's Stanford Hospital, okay? It's no, what I mean? So they ordered that specific test or whatever, and I'm assuming that they order a test like that so you don't have to get vaccinated when you go to the hospital. I'm assuming, but I don't know for a fact, But here's the thing, is that my mom, I don't go around the house spouting out my political viewpoints to my mom or, telling her about the vaccines and, scaring the shit out of her about it, because I know she already had the one dose. But here's the thing, man. She went and got the second dose. So she just went off one day and just, I'm going to go run some errands or whatever, and went off and got a second dose and never said anything to me about it. And then 2 weeks later, all of a sudden, her heart problems came back. All of a sudden, she's got eurythmic or whatever. Her rhythm's messed up.
After the vaccine, look, this isn't a rare occurrence anymore. How many athletes do we have to see dropping to the floor? How many young kids do we have to hear about dying in their sleep? How many bizarre news headlines do we have to hear about crusty vagina and cold causing blood clots before people twig on what's going on? To me, I'm blown away.
The thing about it the thing about it is that throughout this thing, I've had to deal with my mom's heart problems, so I've had to go to the hospital. And there's been a couple of times where I've had to drop my mom off at the door and wave goodbye to her and know that no matter what happens now, I won't be in the room to save her if something happens. In other words, anything can happen once she goes behind closed doors. You know what I mean? The last time when she was in the hospital, they were taking her to the bathroom. I was there. I just happened to be there. Taking her to the bathroom. She passed out on the way to the bathroom. And the girl that was taking her down there's no way she could lift my mom up dead weight. My mom's laying on the floor. I went straight in. Nobody was around. I started clapping my hands, man, going, hey! You know? And they you know, she went code, man. She died. If I wasn't there, dude, she would have been dead. Because the only reason, I swear to God. And I said to the girl while they had my mom in the room and stuff, I was standing next to me, and one of the managers came up to me. She's standing next to me. She's going, is everything all right? You know, because I was visibly pissed off. And I go, you better hope she makes it. You better hope she makes it. Because, man, they were not doing what they were supposed to be doing. Not to say that doctors and nurses don't do their job. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is it makes me uncomfortable to think that if I wasn't there in that moment, my mom wouldn't even be here now. So it makes me uncomfortable to wave goodbye to the only family that I have at the door and trust her life to a bunch of other people that I don't know. If I'm not there. I'm just saying, it makes me uncomfortable. I'd rather just at least be there if something happens.
Yeah, but, you know, I know of situations as well when look, I've been in the surgical room many a time, and look, the reason I get called in is because the doctors are unsure of a pathway that they've got to take because of blood vessels or something like that, so they've got to use recording methods to listen to neurons, and it was frightening how little they did know if things changed from their normal routine. Everything in the hospital is done like a precision. That might be being a bit too generous, but they have very strict SOPs, and they will not deviate from them no matter what. And you know that there isn't. It takes the surgeon to step in to say, okay, there's something's happening here, nurse. Hemostat, please. We're bleeding out. But the like I say, there's someone that's putting something so invasive into your nose, which is a nasopharyngeal swab. Like I said, it's hard. Most people just think, oh, it goes up, right? It goes. That's it. You put your finger up your nose, right? So that's where you would put the swab. And part of my job was to train students, and that included sort of critical care of these animals. And the amount of times that we have to swap a monkey out because we'd do courses or we'd have a few people coming through, and the monkey starts bleeding from the nose or something, and then it's me that gets in trouble for I'm the one that's supposed to be making sure that they're children still. I'd say children. They're young adults doing degrees and stuff.
Yeah. It's not easy, man. None of this is easy. When I was younger, I thought I wanted to be a vet. So I went and I got a job as a vet assistant. Went to this vet, got a job. The very first day I was in there, they're like, hey, we're going to go pull these pins out of this dog's leg. And I was expecting the pins to be like, little pins, like not that big. They pulled this thing out. It was like, 3 inches long or something. And just like, I ended up just going, man, I just couldn't do it. You know what I mean? I didn't want to, I didn't want to be involved in it, man. I love animals, but I didn't want to be in that part of it. You know what I mean? I like the part where I'm petting them, taking them for a walk, that kind of shit. But I I didn't really want.
I mean, for me, some of the worst to see is hip replacements.
Uh-huh.
You ever seen those?
No.
Oh man, that looks brutal, dude.
Yeah.
It's not a small incision that they make, and there's a lot of bone exposed, and you just think of it as like carpentry.
Well, I was telling Epic Journeyman before the show, man, I'm the kind of person, I don't want to go to the hospital unless it's an emergency. So you hanging around the barbershop.
Me too, man.
If you hang around the barbershop long enough, you're gonna get a haircut, man. You know what I mean? So, I mean, as soon as I got my walking papers, and hey, let me just say, there's nothing wrong with Stanford Hospital. You know, the Stanford Hospital saved my life, and they also, you know, operated my mom the last time. So, I mean, you know, there's nothing wrong with Stanford Hospital, but I don't know, man. You know, if I got a broken arm, I go to the hospital. You know, anything else, I don't know. You know, I don't want to go to the hospital. You know, the hospital's an institution. I like to steer clear of them. You know, every chance I get. We got to go to the break. We'll be right back.
Why this happened?
It's Aftermath FM. It's into the microcosm.
But at least this time you were right, and you had the good sense to give up. Yeah, when others there I might have hung in. So just nobody touch me. I know what I'm destroying for you, babe. I destroyed for you, mister. Looks good on you. It looks good on you. But these things look better broken.
Be right back.
Tis the season, and to celebrate, in the month of December, Ground Zero and Aftermath.fm are offering magnificent deals for listeners. Check it out. For the entire month of December, fans of Ground Zero can get an exclusive membership for only $49 for the year. And that's not all. Premium memberships are only $79 for the year. Need some stocking stuffers? Well, we have something for that too. A premium friends and family plan is just $129 for the year. All memberships include access to all of Ground Zero's archived shows. That's thousands of hours of Ground Zero on demand. You'll have complete access to the document libraries and research groups, and you'll have full participation in a monthly Zoom chat with the man himself, Clyde Lewis. So what are you waiting for? Come on over and take advantage of these great Christmas deals right now. For more information, head on over to aftermath.media right now. Again, that's aftermath.media.
On June 1st, 1996, John and Joyce Edmonds purchased a ranch in Rainbow Valley, Arizona. What has ensued for the past 2+ decades beguiles all concepts of our reality. After 23 years, John has finally told his whole story. The story of Stardust Ranch transcends its geography and John and Joyce Edmonds themselves. It becomes a story for the human race at a very important time in our journey as people on this planet. Get your copy of Stardust Ranch, The Incredible True Story, available exclusively on Amazon in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
I'm frozen in time. I moved too fast. Monday through Friday. Immediately following Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero. Hey, what's up, Spencer? You'll find us here. We're your lonesome riders. We're hanging with you tonight. We've got the doc here. Doc McCarran. McCarranDojo.com. We're talking about the current situation. Epic Journeyman's here. I'm here, you're here, we're all here. It's the after part of the underground, the alternative to the alternative. It's not your granddaddy's late night. No. It's in the microcosm. That's right.
You. Outside the limit of our sight, feeding off us, perched on top of us from birth to death, are our owners. Our owners. They have us. They control us. Sleep. Feeding off us, perched on top of us from birth to death, are our owners. Our own. They have taken the hearts and minds of our leaders. They have recruited the rich and the powerful, and they have blinded us to the truth. Our human spirit.
They have blinded us to the truth. Sit to the microcosm and listen. They're perched on top of us. Pull over and let me jam this swab up your mom's nose, man. And then let's go to the airport and feel up grandma before she gets on the plane for that happy holiday vacation. On the airplane, getting duct taped to the seat because you had a loose mask. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. I swear. I mean, listen, I've been around this information for a long time. And if you'd have said any of this would be going on to me 5 years ago, Epic Journeyman, there's no way I would have believed you, man. I would have said you're a crazy conspiracy theorist. Wouldn't I? Are you still there?
For sure. Oh, I'm still here.
Right.
I'm catching up on everything while we're in the break here. So,
Uh-huh.
Did you know OJ's out?
I did, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, OJ got out today.
Well, there it is.
That's
That proves what I'm
notable thing
saying
in the
right
news,
there.
but-
The world has gone completely insane. Go ahead.
OJ,
that's how you know the world's
okay,
messed up.
you Mandela'd me. OJ Simpson has been out for a long time.
No,
he was.
He went back because he tried to get some memorabilia back at gunpoint, I think.
Yeah, he was in
He
Vegas.
said, "Give me
Vegas
back
hotel.
that football."
Yeah.
That's not true.
It is true. Yeah, he got
had a
thrown.
hotel room, and he hired these thugs basically to be the ones that held the gun, but it was at his direction, as I understand it, right? And so he kidnapped these people who had bought his memorabilia, and they were about to sell. They bought it previously, and they're about to sell it to somebody else. It was like a card collection thing and trophies and all that stuff, right? He comes up there and holds them at gunpoint basically to get all his stuff back. Now, mind you, the guy's on parole at the time, right? He's basically not on parole, but he's already just had a civil suit and everything. He got out of jail, having to go to jail on this trial, and then he gets that, So yeah.
Well, you could take them out the ghetto, but you can't take the ghetto out of them. I think is that the? Am I allowed to say that on syndicated radio?
You can say whatever you want to say. I mean, the thing is about it though, is that trial was one of the most important trials in the history of mankind. And because what was at stake was the bringing of DNA evidence into trial to be able to convict somebody of a crime because of that DNA evidence. Most people didn't understand the evidence. Most people were only, if the glove don't fit, you must acquit. That's mostly what people remember. When the glove didn't fit, you must acquit, and that's what happened, But realistically, what happened was they set the precedent for DNA evidence to be entered into court against you, to say that I found some of your DNA at this house, and somebody got killed there, so now you can be brought in on that.
Yeah, who checks them as well? This is the thing.
Exactly.
The whole complex procedure involved in extracting it, and like I say, there's at least fingerprints you can physically see, right? I mean, there's you can get a reality check if you really wanted to.
Well, don't you think we're in a dangerous situation when you can pretty much guarantee that because of the way that bag was situated with my mom's test, something tells me there's maybe something a little bit more going on with those samples, because I don't think the custody of the sample is something that I'd be a little bit concerned about. And I would say, well, so from a business standpoint, I'm a hospital administrator, and I'm saying to myself, man, these tests, I'm only getting so much amount of money from the government from each one. So I need to figure out a way to make myself some profit. Let's see if I could sell some of this data from these swabs over this DNA collection company that's doing research. Now all of a sudden, there's your DNA, man. It's everywhere. I said, they know what your DNA is. So then at the point that you could be found guilty of a crime just simply because you left a little bit of trace evidence somewhere on a dress or whatever, you're going to go right to the Hushka. And so, I mean, it's a dangerous world we're living in, and it's getting more dangerous, seems like, by the day. Because seriously...
Look, this may seem a sort of banal anecdote, but I had to go and get a Christmas present for the wife today. That's why I was running a bit late. But in Japan, it was very traditional here. People use cash. When I got here, credit cards people barely used, and I just a few months ago had exchanged up my modem, and they just passed it on, and I would just get the same bill, and the bill came by post, and you got a bit, but you had an actual bill that you could take to the store, and you could pay it at a convenience store, any convenience store. You just pay it, and they scanned it, and it was done. But in the space of a few months, literally, I wonder how long have I had that modem? Probably less than a year. It's gone. I had to go there. They wanted my passport. They wanted my identity card, even though I was getting a second device, exactly the same device. Just put it on my account, please. I'll pay for 2 of them.
Right.
Okay. Want a passport? You have to have an ID card here, and my driver's license. And then they were like, "We want a credit card." And I was like, "What do you mean you want a credit card? I pay mine. I've always paid it. I've had this account for 13 years. I've always paid it by this, regular bill. Never been late. Never gone afoul of it. And no, this time they wanted to swipe my card, and then they had me enter in the chip number, right? So the dude can see the number that I'm putting in, because they're giving you a tablet to write the data on.
It's just, I mean, literally, it's you can't do anything on the internet unless you give somebody an email address. I don't even think people know how to write letters by hand anymore. I mean, it's gotten to that point where we're basically at the point where cash is no longer necessary. I mean, realistically, you don't go to the bank anymore for any reason. You don't need to go to a bank to get a loan anymore. They don't need to physically see you. There's all these ways. No one's going to fake your fingerprints either. That's another thing. I mean, we talked about the Irish mob, the Westies. They used to chop guys' hands off, keep in the freezer. And then when they'd do a crime, they'd wear gloves and bring the guy's hand there and put his hand around. He's like some dead guy. He's blaming all the crimes on the dead guy. That kind of thing. You can't do that with DNA. And, you can do that with DNA, and not like you can with the faking of the chopped off hand. Hey, maybe that's how you'll get in the future. Is they'll pull out, they'll yank out your eyeball and get your hand and put it on the scanner.
Well, they already do that. Well, I mean, virtually. I mean, this was the whole issue in Afghanistan, that the US had been rolling out and testing this technology in the middle of the Afghanistan, where there's no infrastructure. And what did they do? They did a runner and left all the equipment there with everyone's biometrics in it. Right, so they know that it was literally like opening the vault for the Stasi, and then everyone knows who was helping who, and and everyone says, "Oh, it's nothing to worry about if you haven't done anything wrong." Well, okay, but what happens if the system is wrong?
Yeah, right. To tell that to all the Jews when Nazi Germany happened, right? Gathered all that information. Anytime they gather that kind of information, that kind of database, it's going to be used for something bad. Almost every time, because you can count on it.
You can
all it
count
takes is
on
one change in government, and that's it. Stasi is a good example. It really is. Like that's another example.
Okay, you guys, there was a speech that was made from China, and they said the era in which the U.S. acted arbitrarily in the world under a pretext of democracy and human rights is over. I'm gonna play this here. I think he's speaking in Chinese, and if he is, I'll just read what he's saying. Hang on 1 second.
暴行不可接受.
Okay, he's speaking in Chinese, so I'll read you guys what he's saying. He says, the atrocity of killing civilians by U.S. troops in Afghanistan is unacceptable. It is even more outrageous that the U.S. exonerates the perpetrators with impunity. Hang on a second, I missed a piece. While the U.S. talked about democracy and human rights. And at the summit, the Summit for Democracy, the innocent Afghan people who were gunned down by the U.S. military were forgotten. and the killers remain beyond justice. This is the harsh reality brought to the world by American-style democracy and human rights. We condemn the brutal military intervention by the U.S., Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria in the name of democracy and human rights. We call on the international community to investigate the U.S. military's war crimes and killing of innocent civilians around the world and hold it accountable. Justice may be delayed, but will not be denied. In an era which the U.S. arbitrarily in the world, the so-called democracy and human rights is over. That day will eventually, when the U.S. military who killed innocent civilians, he's really hammering that point in other countries, when there will be justice. So, I guess that didn't make it on the...
Is that from a couple days ago?
Yeah, it didn't make it on...
That's because they had the democracy conference and they weren't invited. They were pissed. I read about that. They were super pissed that they didn't get invited.
Oh, they were pissed, all right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
So-
I think the
It's that whole Uyghur thing, you know. They got all the Uyghurs are killing and putting in concentration camps, so they're kind of, pissed that we'd say that about them. And
Right.
somehow, it gets lost in
Yeah,
the
but
innocent Iraqis
Yeah,
die.
commie ching chongs have a point here. I'm sorry,
they
they do. This
They
is the
do.
thing.
I know.
And-
See, the thing is, I think that everybody put their little chips in the hat. They're deciding who's going to be running things for the next 100 years. And I think China's the winner. I mean, it was always going to be China. You got Maurice Strong over there. You got the Chinese social credit system, the Chinese censoring system on the internet. You have a communist system that looks like capitalism, but still has total government control over the people. So this is the system they want to use. This is the one. This is the.
I think it's not about countries at all. I think it's about who's going to be king of the world, literally, king of the world. That's the pageant. That's the big prize. So I'd say Xi's up there, man. Whatever I pronounce his name, Xi Jinping.
Well, the people behind Xi Jinping.
Yeah.
And,
the oligarchs.
Can we
European
mention the
oligarchs.
Khazarian mafia on the air? Is that all right?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, because everybody has to. Everybody rushed in, right, when they said. I mean, China was just what it was until fools rushed in. When everything started when Walmart moved their giant facility over there. Walmart was the first one who went over there full bore, and then everybody else followed. And Walmart,
Apple with the jump nets.
yeah. Well, Walmart, what they started, they had this thing. There used to be something that was called the push. It was a push and pull system. So normally, when a store buys something from salespeople, the salesman comes and sells them how many and for how much. But Walmart changed it, and they said, well, if we buy it from you, you're going to sell so many more. So we'll only buy it from you if you sell it for this price. So they turned the whole system around on its head when they moved over there. And then all these businesses built up around supplying Walmart with services. And then you saw a lot of the electronics companies start moving over there. Anything that had environmental impact that was being hampered by the laws and the constraints of what was here in the United States, they all went over there. So I think we lost the dock, man. You don't talk.
Putting it mildly.
Oh, there you are. There you are, Doc. There you are. You see, yeah. So, right? so this is where the investment came in, because they already knew when Nixon, and got this whole thing started in the beginning, that they knew exactly where they were going to be here. I mean, when it was going to happen, I don't know. But if you look, the biggest exporter of goods in the world is China. It's exporting everywhere across the planet. I was sitting here the other day. I was eating a cup of noodles, and I was thinking to myself, man, it'd be so easy to kill a bunch of people. You know what to do is poison these cup of noodles, because half of America's living on this shit now because they can't afford to eat. Everybody just like you snuck those canisters into that vape. Everybody's, oh yeah, get rid of the vapes, man. Oh, the vapes are making people sick. Well, maybe it wasn't the vapes making people sick. Maybe it was a delivery method for the virus, man. What a ingenious plan for an evil dictator to make in my fictional novel. They sent that biological agent over here in those vaping canisters. Had a bunch of people coughing up that steam out all over the place. And then what happened? Right after that's when it happened too. Like 3 months after that, it all happened. Right, and you know what? Where did those canisters come from? China. Where did they go? Seattle, up in the Pacific Northwest, man. You know what I'm saying?
But the deaths from the vaping, I thought they were across the U.S., but it was around the time that Fort Detrick had a offline moment.
Oh, really?
Yes. The Fort Detrick's monitoring system for all their agents in August 2019, around then.
It's crazy, man. Well, yeah. I mean, at this point, I think it's getting extremely difficult to project yourself out into the future. To say to yourself, man, couple years I'll be laying on the beach with a nice cold something in my hand, just my sunglasses on and my shorts. Yeah, now you got to sit there and wonder if you're going to be able to do any of that stuff, or even if any of the stuff that, I'm going to tell you what I think, and I honestly I don't try to project anything on the show for the most part, but I would say I would really look for something financial to take place sometime in the next 30 to 45 days that'll be extremely powerful in the world. And we're gonna talk a little bit about tomorrow about debanking, because I really believe that we're heading to a time when you don't need ATMs anymore. You don't need cash. You don't need banks. If you don't have cash, you don't need banks. Get rid of the banks. Why do you need five banks? You don't. You just need one giant bank where that everybody's in, because they're going to watch it anyway, right? They're saying they're going to watch your bank account if you move more than $600 a month in it. Every human being in the United States of America that has to pay rent is moving $600 a month into their bank accounts. That means the IRS says they can just come on in and do whatever the hell they want. So at that point, you might as well just let the Federal Reserve be the only bank in America. It doesn't matter. You get your you got a bank account, Bank of America, you might as well not even have a bank account. They charge you to take your money out. They charge you to put your money in. They put a hold on your check. They let the state take your money without even giving you a courtesy of a fucking reach around, man. It's time to wake up and get your money out of the bank, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not even joking. And you know what? I'm just saying, man, go back and look at Greece. You know what they were calling it back then? They did a bail-in. Bail-in. You know what they called it? A haircut. You went down to the bank the next day to get your fucking money out, and they said, sorry, boy, you got a haircut.
Screams filled.
No money.
Load I drop in you. Silence now the sound. My breath the only emotion around. Demons cluttering around. My face showing no emotion.
It's Aftermath FM.
There is no penance, my skin begins to burn. So I held my head up high. I didn't hate that burns inside. Don't infuse their selfish pride. All held captive out from the sun.
It's one in the arm or one in the head, man. Your choice.
Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis. Live Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific. But what happens when you miss an episode? Aftermath.fm is the official free streaming network of Ground Zero, featuring some of the top voices in paranormal and parapolitical radio and podcasts, such as The Leo Zagami Show, Into the Microcosm with Jimmy Jean, The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable, The Kev Baker Show, The Infinite Fringe with Billy Ray Valentine, and much, much more. What are you waiting for? Head on over to Aftermath.fm right now and get complete on-demand access to the Ground Zero archives, as well as the works of a dozen other hosts. Sign up right now and get complete access to our study groups, videos and document archives, and connect with other listeners on our private social media network. Aftermath.fm, home of quality counterculture talk radio. Aftermath.fm.
On June 1st, 1996, John and Joyce Edmonds purchased a ranch in Rainbow Valley, Arizona. What has ensued for the past 2+ decades beguiles all concepts of our reality. After 23 years, John has finally told his whole story. The story of Stardust Ranch transcends its geography and John and Joyce Edmonds themselves. It becomes a story for the human race at a very important time in our journey as people on this planet. Get your copy of Stardust Ranch, The Incredible True Story, available exclusively on Amazon in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendo.
It's Aftermath FM. Monday through Friday, 10:30 Pacific, immediately following Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero, you'll find us. This is Pale Summit, Side by Side. only 129 people have ever heard that song. I mean, there are so many great bands out there, ladies and gentlemen, and so little time. So yeah, you're not going to hear that anywhere else. Aftermath FM. It's the home of quality talk radio and information and presentations. Clyde Lewis, David Knight, Billy Ray Valentine, Kev Baker, Leo Zagami, Steve Poikinen, Epic Journeyman, Dr. Kevin McCarran, McCarranDojo.com tonight. So, welcome back. That's a good band. I highly recommend them. Check them out. Pale Summit. So Epic Journeyman, Doc McCarran. We're on a dangerous. They say, hey, it's a slippery slope. I think we've been on a slippery slope, on a hot rail to hell. Into the Chinese model. That's where I think we're going. That type of behavior I'm starting to see in my own country here, starting to look a little bit not like my country.
We slid over, I think. Yeah, this pandemic. I mean, actually, so many people refused to take cash. You couldn't even use cash, right? You had to use a card. Places never demanded it before, like Doc was saying. All of a sudden asking for it because they don't want you to touch anything, spread the the terrible germs around or whatever, right? Because it lives on paper money so long. Well, I mean, people got accustomed to it, and like we've talked about many times, it only takes 3 months to make a permanent habit. Basically, really hard to break after that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I can't say that I would be against. I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, what are you going to do? How else are you going to do it? It's to that point, right? Most of it's imaginary anyway, right? Most of it's already ones and zeros, really, until you actually pull cash out of the bank. I mean, maybe that's why it costs money to take money out. Because every time you take it out, you put out a 20 out of there, it costs $2 to print that bitch. They're printing it out of thin air. You know what I mean? I go, hey, $2. I mean, isn't that what they charge at the Fed? Isn't it some percentage like that? I bet you the percentage would translate out. Every time you pull a 20 out, you pay $2. I bet it's the same percentage that the Treasury gets charged by the Fed to print money. I'll bet you. You should look at it, Epic, and check it out, man. I bet you it does. I bet you the ratio is the same.
They charge you $2 for taking 20 out.
Well,
$4 for whatever you take out in some places is not your bank. Yeah. So that's why you always take out the max. Like if the max is $200, you got to take out the max, because if you take out $20, you're paying at least $3. Most places, not your bank. Yeah, crazy.
Man, I just
they won. It's just as simple as that. The tech overlords. I welcome our new insect overlords, and I hope to facilitate their time here.
That's what I mean. It was like the moment that I went to my bank account and my money wasn't there, and I said, "Why is my money not there?" And I said, "Well, because we charged you to file a paper." Okay, you just took my money. I said, I didn't go to court. They go, oh, you don't have to go to court. No, we can just take it because we said so. Well, we're the state, man. See? Don't you get it? We're the state. We can just take your money right out of the bank. There's no shit you can do about it. Who are you going to talk to? Who are you going to yell at? It's like chemtrails. You know about them. And they're aerosol disbursement. Don't call them chemtrails. So aerosol disbursement, you know about it. What can you do about it except stand on the ground and shake your fist up at the sky? That's about it. That's about it. Because it goes on.
Yeah, well, I would say there's a slight difference there, and that the whole the whole chemtrail could still be a bit ambiguous as to what they're doing. It's not ambiguous what they're doing right now in front of your very eyes. It's bringing your children to Moloch. We've got to that point. That's where.
Yeah. No, I mean it's literally a science fiction movie, man. And you know what's even now coming in more into view is this guy. We did a show on this guy. He made a trailer. He was putting together a movie called Gray State. And he didn't get the movie made. He made a trailer and then got a GoFundMe together to make the movie. Then before the movie got made, there was a killing where the guy and his wife and his child, he supposedly killed his wife and child and then killed himself. Okay, and there was a whole controversy about this dude because people said he was taken out. Okay, I watched the video, the documentary about the killing, and what I took away from it was that he was number one, he was a stone cold killer because he had already been in war. He'd been in 2 tours over in Iraq. And he got released to go home, and then he got called back. And when he got called back, he was super pissed off about it. You could tell. It's like I wouldn't want to be on the end of one of his knock and talks over there that he was doing, because he was pissed, and he was taking it out on people, man. You could tell because there's video of him when he was in Iraq talking about it, his life and stuff, and there's video of him talking, and you can see. He married somebody, he got married, he was in love, and then he had to go back there. And you could tell he was listening to Alex Jones before he went back. Before he went back to Iraq the second time, they were showing him, and you could see he was listening to the Alex Jones show. So the second time he went back, he probably wasn't too stoked on the government in general. And then he got taken back and put back there. So then somebody wrote Allah Akbar on the wall in blood after his wife and daughter were killed. And there's video you can see of his child and his wife while he's making this trailer. And you could see that this child is seriously affected by whatever's going on in that relationship between the wife and the husband. And I have to say, if you've never looked at the trailer for Gray State, it is a terrifying scenario for America. Okay? The military is shooting people on the streets, just shooting people in the head. The people in the grocery stores have triangle tattoos on their forearm that they use to buy and sell with. And you take your kid down.
The Jared Leto fans.
Yeah. No, I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, if you've never seen the trailer for the movie he was going to make called Gray State, you should go take a look at it. Because there's people going to camps, all the things that people fear. There's civil war in America when this is going on. It's obviously a fictional representation of what this guy thought was going to happen in America. So there's a controversy around this guy, because they say that he was revealing what was soon to happen, which what we see happening now, the kind of world
best case scenario we have right now is that they're pushing right now, and they're gonna hit some relief valve. They'll say, "Oh, pandemic's over." They've pushed everyone to this point. There's a collective sigh of relief, and then there's at this point everyone's already on board with the tracking and the whatever the probing that they do. So in a sense, the big tech battle they win, right? And so the question becomes what to do. What's the response in this? And I've been trying to, and I fail at it, is to try to move away from the system as much as you can. But it got me today. Where I've been I'd sort of kept a bit distance. You know, they had to send out a bit of paper before coming and purloining my bank account of money. But now they got it. No contract. Yeah, if you didn't want to agree to it, they weren't gonna give me the router I wanted. And yeah, I probably could go somewhere else and look at it. But do you know how bloody difficult it is for in Japan to get something like that? It sucks. And yeah, like I say, I had to get a phone. I've been living with an old LG from like 2014, and it was busted up. Batteries wouldn't charge even if I put new ones in, and it's just built-in obsolescence. And now you've got stuff where you have to use like a QR code, right? And you want a vision of the future. Orwell was wrong. It wasn't the jackboot. It's the QR code stamping on the face of humanity.
Yeah, there it goes. I mean, the QR code will take the place of those old FRN, Federal Reserve notes. Some's got to happen first, though, right? I guess there's going to be some sort of event that will cause this migratory rush into the Bitcoin marketplace or the blockchain humans. I mean, we're blockchain humans, man. We're moving into the blockchain era, you know?
And that's just it. That technology is the foreshadowing of how they're going to be controlling stuff. Sorry, you know, we can't trust the transport of food anymore. We're going to have to, and literally, there's, you know, they can make benign, so-called benign fungal spores that they can put like markers on that are part of blockchain technology, and have them through, you know, impregnating packaging and food.
Yeah, track everything back to the source.
Yeah,
custody all the way through. The blockchain's defined, right?
Yeah, just the fact that you know, maybe these people in charge just realize, oh man, just look how they've gone for blockchain, and they're not thinking it through. They just see dollar signs, and everyone jumped on board, man. Everyone's coming a day trader in their little pod.
It's true. I mean, I don't know. You know, the world seems like it used to be the world was giant, you know. You just sit back and dream of all the places you could go, you know, and our world seems like it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah. And if you're going to fight, I tell this to people, man, your world is going to shrink down to what you've been used to getting. And that's the carrot that they're going to dangle in front of you. Oh, you can have that back. Just so long as you sign, it's just so long as you not even sign a thumbprint. Okay, Daddy's working, big boy. Daddy's working. Good lad. You know, you can.
You're signing yourself away, man. I accept. I accept.
Yeah, because you don't read the long form. No one reads the end user license agreement.
No. Not at all.
Who does? No one. Right?
Nobody. And, you know, who can blame them, man? I mean, the reason they make them so small and so tightly spaced and so many pages is specifically because of what it says in there. Like, for example, there's a... there was an NSA clause in saying that they weren't responsible for any data that you lost because they were running beta tests on software on your phone. You know, and the thing is, it's like most people would care less about what was going on with their phone. They just need to have it. It's like they couldn't stand living without it for 5 minutes. You know? If you can't get email, you don't get mail. If you don't get a cell phone call, you don't exist. Without a cell phone, how do you exist in this world? You won't be able to soon. It'll be like China. It's against the law not to have a cell phone in China, isn't it? Epic Journeyman.
Is it?
Yeah. Everybody has to have a
That's
cell
what I
phone.
heard. I have not verified that.
I gotta Google that one.
Google that. Yeah, they, that's why everybody got so. That was for me. That was the thing that pushed me over the edge to think the thing was real, because something like 2 million cell phones disappeared off the network in China, and they said that it was people were saying that's because they were dead. They were burning all those people in the incinerators and all this shit. And so I was in the cell phone business, and I know 2 million phones don't just drop off the network all of a sudden for no reason. But it turned out the excuse that they made was that these people have more than one cell phone, and sometimes they let them, they expire because you buy the minutes by a certain period of time, and they expire. And they were saying they expired. So they expired. So Dr. Rowe, who comes on Monday nights, he said, well, then if that's true, then it should happen every year then, right? Has it happened again since then? No. So maybe all those political prisoners from everywhere, their cell phones went dead during the beginning of the pandemic.
A bunch of people got new kidneys.
Yeah, man. Yeah, well.
Well, speaking of which,
did you Google the cell phone in China being
I found all new cell phone users must have their face scanned. So
see, it's like what happened to you when you went to the store. It's like all of a sudden they could just change the rules overnight, and when you go to the store, unless you're on the program, they could cause you to do 20 things. You don't have the QR code? Oh, hold on a second. Let me see your birth certificate. Let me see your passport. Let me see your driver's license. Go over here, bend over, stand on one foot with your thing on your, touch your eye with your head. Touch your eye with your head. Go ahead. Okay. You know what I mean?
I had the police called on me Monday.
For what?
Disturbing the peace.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I say, got try to do some renovations and just take care of stuff. So I've got a load of scrap wood and stuff that I've got to get rid of, and it's very difficult to get rid of trash in Japan. It's not like other places I've lived.
No.
Where you could just fly tip everywhere. But in Japan, it's all very orderly, and you just can't get rid of stuff. That's why they go minimalist here. But so I bought an incinerator, that you get at a hardware store that you can use where for garden waste and what have you. And so I sparked that bitch up on Monday morning. And within minutes, there's the fire brigade there, and they come looking, and they asked me, well, have you got a chimney stack on it? I said, yeah, look, I've got, I bought it. It's got chimney stack to stop sparks going off and what have you. And next thing, the police come as well, because this is all from one next door neighbor, and so police come in and try to tell me, you've got to stop that. And I'm like, I'm not stopping this. I know it's not illegal, and I don't care about my next door neighbors. I've been warring with them since I moved in. And at one point, this dude, right, and he knows me because he arrested me for beating up another dude, right? He's like, can I see your ID card? And I'm standing in my garden, and they literally just trampled all over my potatoes. Right?
They did?
I'm like, yeah, they're just standing there, right, just trampled all over my potatoes, because, I had a bunch of tools and everything all out, because I've got to take the floor out of where I keep my tools. So it's all sort of stacked up, and so they had to walk around the edge. And so they've come walking around the edge, come and have a look at Dr. Kev's incinerator, and they were, they kept trying to tell me, you can't do that. And I said, no, I can do it. I can buy it. It's regulation. I can do what I want. And people around here set fires all the time. There are people that have wood burning fires in the winter. There's nothing you can do.
It's because they don't want you
back and
yeah, they won't let you throw the trash away, and they also don't want you burning it either, because they don't want any pollution. Is that it? Listen,
pretty much.
Be ready. Be ready for the blockchain trash cans. They're coming. I'm not kidding.
Well, I
because
think they're here already.
Yeah, they're here. No, because
Yeah.
here's what it is. Because each package has a RFID in it, and when your trash can is reading the trash, if anything in there is not what's it's supposed to, like if it's plastic, and the RFID says on plastic, and it's in the food bin, you're gonna get a fine. They are going to do that.
Yeah.
There is no question about it. The smart trash cans are just around the corner. They're going to deliver them, and it's going to tie right into your social credit score. It's going to tie right into everything after Journeyman, isn't it? They're just going to be scanning it.
Yeah.
Be scanning your trash.
It never got off the ground yet. It's still coming. Neom, you know, if MDS hadn't went and killed Khashoggi, he'd probably already be here right before the big conference. But that was one of the things they were going to do.
Thanks, Bitcoiners. Assholes.
he was gonna have it set up to where your house had these LED rings on the house. And it's unclear whether it's gonna be like panels on the side or if it was like a roof kind of thing that was a highlight. But depending on how much energy you used, it'd go like from red to blue, you know. So if you were an energy hog, it'd be red, you know. And if you were doing good, it'd be blue, right? You know, so you'd be shamed by your neighbors basically. So trying to keep everything, you know, it's an enclosed society basically, right? I mean, yeah. So they're building it from scratch. It's scary, man, because that is a prototype city. That's exactly what they're shooting for. So that's
exactly
really worth paying attention to.
Let me just say, man, you'll own nothing and love it because there's no red tape when you don't own anything. We'll be right back. McCarranDojo.com. It's Aftermath FM. Listen to the microcosm. It's midnight on the West Coast.
This story is a journey into the real underworld of our governing structures, told by a Navy SEAL, CIA contractor, and an initiate of the Pablo Mayumbi, one of the oldest and most precise blood magic systems on the planet, alleging to have come from Africa as far back as before the flood. The light of darkness is everything you wanted to know about power, evil, magic, murder, ritual, and sacrifice, as practiced by the ruling groups on this planet. Get your copy of The Light of Darkness, A Warrior's Tale for Our Time, available exclusively on Amazon in paperback and Kindle.
'Tis the season, and to celebrate, in the month of December, Ground Zero and Aftermath.fm are offering magnificent deals for listeners. Check it out. For the entire month of December, fans of Ground Zero can get an exclusive membership for only $49 for the year. And that's not all. Premium memberships are only $79 for the year. Need some stocking stuffers? Well, we have something for that too. A premium friends and family plan is just $129 for the year. All memberships include access to all of Ground Zero's archived shows. That's thousands of hours of Ground Zero on demand. You'll have complete access to the document libraries and research groups, and you'll have full participation in a monthly Zoom chat with the man himself, Clyde Lewis. So what are you waiting for? Come on over and take advantage of these great Christmas deals right now. For more information, head on over to aftermath.media right now. Again, that's aftermath.media.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Monday through Friday, 10:30 Pacific, immediately following Clyde Lewis at Ground Zero. It's the underground, the after party, and the alternative to the alternative. It's not your granddaddy's late night. No. It's into the microcosm. Yes. Sitting here with the outlaw neurologist, Dr. Kevin McCarran, McCarranDojo.com, and the epic journeyman. Boot stomping the competition. Epic journeyman. Oh, yeah.
I'm here. I was getting ready to zone out there, though, man.
Yeah. Gallios. Phosphoros. Woohoo! I'm trying to get this guy on. There's a guy who puts a bunch of really great music out for a bunch of these independent acts, and I'm trying to get him on. So we'll see how that pans out. Hopefully it'll work out. So Epic Journeyman, Doc Kevin McCarran. What do you guys want to get into next? Now, I mean, we've gone around the board, but something that I've been kind of thinking about, Doc, and I wanted to run it by you because it seems like this mad cow disease seems to be popping up, seems to be cropping up. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Now, didn't you at one point, weren't you pointing out some of the similarities? Were there similarities between some of what you were seeing with the brain and mad cow disease and some similarities to this? What I think, wasn't it the prions, I think it was, that were similar?
Yep.
So,
These are, well, there's epitopes, meaning just stretches of amino acids on the spike protein that induce protein misfolding, which are the fundamental basis of prion disorders, technically amyloidosis. It's a primary one. But yeah, it's there, baked in, whether you get the virus or the shot, it's there. And we're seeing there's published papers out now looking at the neurological impact from these epitopes, these stretches of amino acids, and neurodegeneration. Look, we did a paper this morning. It's a single child from Brazil, but I think it was a she in the paper. It's maybe a little ambiguous. But 14 months old, got taken out with SARS, and the brain was massively shrunken. It looked completely off, just from gross anatomy, and there was all necrosis on the cortex between the white matter and the cortical mantle, and classic spongiform presentation. Encephalopathy, yes. Yep. The look, it's there. Is it going to affect everyone? I don't think so. Biologists, we're not machines, right? So what affects one may not affect another so bad. But like I say, I guess 14-month-year-olds get taken out every day around the world, right? But you try to blot it out, and it's more if we're losing children because of this. And I've seen plenty of videos already of kids being impacted by the shots, at least, and
well, so
the scientific.
We got a question from Cybermeister about ALS in the chat. So is there a correlation to ALS? What is that syndrome incorporated now? Is this also based from...
Yes, ALS is in neuroscience, and so when you say outlaw neurologist, technically it should be outlaw neuroscientist. Neurologist
okay,
is
all right.
The doctor,
yeah.
The scientist. But ALS is a genetically inherited protein misfolding, and they happen, right? But it's generally it's considered rare. I mean, Parkinson's is more common, and Alzheimer's as well. But then you're just looking at people who have we've extended life out that 100 years ago you wouldn't see Alzheimer's. Most people would have packed it in by sort of 70 years old, and once you get past that point, every year is the clock's running against you, and it's taking ever bigger chunks out of your capacity to maintain cohesiveness. And we don't know the long-term consequences of this approach that they've taken right now.
Well, so if there's something that's genetic. In other words, you're born with a condition. Could you cause the condition if you know a condition exists? Could that condition be induced?
Can you preempt it? Yeah, of course.
So, but the pendulum swings both ways too, right? So, obviously, what we've been hearing over here recently is that most of the deer, or the wild deer population here, has been affected by the COVID, is what they're saying. And this was something that they were very much afraid of, as far as the mad cow disease, or the wasting disease, because they had said that it made it into the deer population. So I find this really interesting. I'm not a doctor, okay, but I'm starting to see if a few things line up that are abstract, have nothing to do with one another, and they're from years gone by. But I'm not a researcher, but I remember those specific bullet points, and they seem to line up with what's being said about the similarities between mad cow and some of what's going on with COVID. Are they diagnosing these deer with COVID that may have, chronic wasting disease? Is that what they call it? CW.
CWD, chronic wasting disease, and it's a prion disorder. There was a paper just came out. It's on CDC's website, but it's a study where they were able to put prion agent into the soil, and the earthworms would absorb the prion agents, and then the earthworms became a vector for infectious prions, so it can travel under the ground as well. This is like prions were this end game for the biowarfare trajectory, if you like, because they have this, all biowarfare has a degree of ambiguity around it, especially in the modern context. But prions were always sort of limited as a weapon, because you could spray prion into the air and you might get someone sick in a room where there's like a really high concentration.
Mm-hmm.
But once it's dispersed out and settled onto the ground, then generally you're going to be okay. But that was the thinking. But now they've found that that prions can soak into the soil, and then the worms pick it up, and then are traveling around excreting it out into the soil, I guess, or whatever earthworms do. Not an expert on annelids. So.
Well, here's another abstract that they just pulled a worm out that's thousands of years old and brought it back to life. Did you see this? No, seriously. I mean, it's too.
I saw it with the toad. Yeah, that it was inside a geode.
This is recent, man. This is like in the last week. I just find that really, really interesting that this thing came out today on the worm, and then these guys are talking about the worm that they dug up that's like 25 or 2,800 years old. I have to look and see how old it was. But Epic German, jump in here. I got to run and check the perimeter real quick. So hang out with the doc real fast.
Well, we were talking before a little bit about these prion diseases and how the caribou were being killed by that red lichen, right? That was on the ground in the tundra. It thought that was responsible for the wasting disease a little bit. I don't know if that was ever followed up on. That's from a couple years back. Where
that's one hypothesis as to where they could be coming from, and the issue with these proteinaceous particles is that once they're formed, it's difficult your body's evolved to deal with a set amount, right? Otherwise, no one would get past the starting gate. But what's the progenitor from? Well, maybe that red lichen is red because its chemistry has found a way to absorb these misfolded proteins. I don't know.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it could be something crazy like that. But there's go on.
No, I was gonna say. So if I understand correctly, right? Like, because I looked at this back in the late '80s, I want to say, or early '90s, when they first had that breakout of mad cow in Britain. It was right, and so they had all these articles and Nature and Scientific American, all that kind of stuff. They talked about is it prions or prions? I always mispronounce it, but
I pronounce it prions. If you're America, I think prions.
Yeah, I think it's both, right? I think it's both. I think it's okay either way. But it's like a jigsaw puzzle, right? And so like the jigsaw puzzles, I think I used this analogy before, have ink on them, and have a full picture of the London Bridge, and there's one jigsaw puzzle that fits, that it interlinks the protein segment, right? And it's just like that piece that has no ink on it, and it bleeds the ink off the adjacent, so it's empty. It's a white piece, right? And but it's absorbent, let's say. And this is a good analogy, I think. It absorbs the adjacent ink off the other pieces of the puzzle and starts bleeding the whole image, which is the image of your brain, your protein structure, and all that stuff, right? Until finally it does destructive damage, obviously to your brain, right? It starts leaching. That's a good word, I guess. Leaching everything off away from the good solid protein strands, right? Is that a good analogy or no?
Well, it's maybe more think about it as like you build a model village out of Lego, or like those magnetic bricks you can get now,
interlinking,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you just get one that just starts grabbing onto all the others, and it just starts making long chains of these destructive proteins. Or it is protein still, but it's just misformed. And we're very far from having good treatments. And like I say, unless this fourth industrial revolution, they've taken that into account, and they can go in and do stuff that I'm unaware of. But there's a lot of unknowns at the moment, and how that's going to play out. And 14-month-old children, apparently she'd had a fever before. This is Brazil, an illness that left her a bit neurologically damaged. I'm thinking she might have got exposed to Zika. And then on top of that, the brain can absorb a lot, right? It's you'd be surprised how much damage you can do to the brain before there's really a impact on the organism. Right, and of course, there's eloquent areas that you have to be very careful of. But you could stick big chunks of metal into the brain to go probing around, and an animal seems okay. And I've seen plenty of human surgeries where their skull's been opened up and they're in there pulling clots out or resecting tumors or things like that. And it's quite stunning, really. When I started research, I had this idea that this brain was this super fragile egg that the slightest sort of damage to it, you would see immediate results. And I can remember, it was one of the sort of first times that I'd been trusted to be left with the monkey to run the experiment by myself. And there's a whole bunch of messing around with respect to, you've got to pierce the dura with a needle that goes through, and then through that cannula you can pass the probe, whatever you want to put into the brain. And I can remember I was, I'd sort of done the experiment and it had gone well. I'd got data, and I was taking off the device, and I'm stiff, right, because it's precision and fractions of a millimeter count, and I'm sort of trying to get it off, and you're sort of having to jiggle it to try and release the pressure, and I pull it out, and I'm like, oh god, I hadn't pulled out the penetrating cannula, and the monkey was jumping around whilst I was wiggling it out. And I didn't. I just thought it was right, but just it was me rattling around this metal cannula in his brain, and I was like, "Oh no, I've gone and done it now. I've fucked them." This is it. I'm gonna get in for the high jump now. And I went home, and just all night I was like, "Oh my god, we're gonna." Everyone had gone home. Usually PhDs and postdocs are left in the lab to do all the work. The people who are paid go home, piss off early, right? And the night was a terrible one of me sort of ruminating on, oh my God, what have I done? They're going to find it. And I sort of, was early in the lab the next day and just, casually going down there, just check on the animals, just see how they are. And, I've gone in and I'm expecting it to be sort of all loss of function on one side. And no, the monkey was right as rain. Nothing wrong there at all. And so that was sort of one of my first lessons in that. There's this degree of elasticity there that you wouldn't think was there when you think about brains. I mean, but look, people know someone that's had a stroke, etc., and they can see how sort of devastating it can be.
The old ice pick to the head seems okay. Yeah,
well, look, man, that's how they did those. That's how they did those lobotomies to begin with, right? It's basically like a pick. They stick it into your eyeball or through your eye. They aim for the midline of your brain, and they ram it in there, and they just wiggle it backwards and forwards to cut the fibers that connect the two hemispheres of the brain. And it's well, any other damage to the frontal cortex is a bonus in these particular instances when they were doing these lobotomies. I'm sure a few were well deserved, but there's it's just it's not until you're sort of hands on with it that you sort of have a lot of these illusions sort of pop. But look, I've had monkeys stroke out on me as well when literally I've done everything as normal. The experiment's gone well, and I've gone in the next day, and he's paraplegic on one side, and there would have been no indicator of it. So there be dragons there. Be careful, I guess, is the overall message.
Right? So didn't they discover it? It was from cannibals, right? They get that disease called kuru, I think it's called. Laughing disease, and they'd start laughing and they'd fall down. And it was the women and children who got it, and because they would eat the leftovers. The warriors would eat the best parts of the meat. The cannibal that eat the the thigh and the biceps and all the good stuff, and then they get the remnants left, which is close to the spine and rib and brain, right? And then it's just those prions, right? That somehow latch on once they get in, find a way somehow to the brain. That's it. It's over.
Yep.
But it's funny because they don't seem like they were suffering too much initially. They I mean, it sucks. They're falling down, but and laughing. But.
Yeah, it's because kuru just means laughing in their language, and because the people that they would have, they'd just be permanently giggling. I suppose that's a way to go, right? If you're gonna go, you may as well go out laughing. That's generally the understood etiology of it. Now, there's some talk about maybe that they were vaccine programs being run there pre-Second World War by the Japanese that might have been responsible.
731 stuff, yeah.
So there's look. They had kuru as an agent, right? And we know that the U.S. took it from the Japanese.
They came over here in paperclip. Yeah, they took the 731 guys over here. The worst people in history, in my opinion. I can't imagine anybody worse than those guys. Live vivisections and, killing people. I mean, doing all these live tests on them and giving them like the aerosol botulism and
things like the pressure testing.
Yeah, right.
What? That's some far out medical experimentation, man. Where you're just gonna depressurize someone rapidly, and you wanna understand the effects. Oh, what a dark part of humanity that we would do that. And look, we haven't got any better. Following from last week's stream where we were talking about the I forgot what we called it now. Anyway, the Liberia and the monkey, the chimpanzee labs that they were just passaging stuff through. And have we changed?
You want to hear?
I don't think so.
You want to hear an interesting factoid that came out after we did our show. There was a show Clyde did the following night. He had an author on there, and she said she was trying to get demographic information on racial breakdown of people that suffered from COVID. And she said she couldn't get any actual real documentation until she figured out she could get it from police stations. So she went to these different police stations and broke it out demographically, and it turned out that black people were getting sick with COVID at a rate way higher. Like she said, and I don't want to say for sure, but I think I remember her saying 73%, which I thought was a pretty, of the people that got COVID were black or of color.
Yep.
So I thought that was interesting based on what we were saying the night before about the race-specific bioweapon aspect of the AIDS virus and the what did they ended up calling it? It ended up being called AIDS eventually. They changed the name of it. It's less.
Yeah, good. So HIV is the virus, and AIDS is the syndrome that it causes. So you can be HIV positive but not have AIDS.
Well, okay, so why? Let me ask you this question. Now, I'm a layman. You know, I see big things float out in front of me, and I got to ask the question: why is this virus seem to have all these aspects of these different shit? Mad cow is in there. Okay, this is in there. You know what I mean? It seems to be like a myriad of these different things all in one thing. It doesn't seem natural to me. I thought the big stumbling block to humanity being wiped out was the fact that that sicknesses don't transmute between animals and people. I thought that was the big thing. Waiting for that big moment when a parakeet could give you the death flu, because you could transfer now sicknesses from animals to people, and all of a sudden here in 2021, well, they're vaccinating giraffes for COVID. What the
didn't they killed a giraffe?
Yeah,
with the vaccines. Look, man, watch my streams. Of course, shout out to Mark Kulak, who's Tonic Live, for his deep dives into these networks that have been around for generations, and these people aren't benign, right? They're sold on this idea of either it's a messiah complex that they're saving the world, or they go where the money is. And if there's big money to be made in these agents and trying to figure them out, that's where the talent will go. And
I'm just saying, it seems interesting to me that there's aspects of the AIDS thing, there's aspects of mad cow, there's aspects of all these. It's like a cocktail of all this stuff that would cause people to stupefy. Car accidents have increased. Did you know that this National Aviation magazine, they put out a detailed report,
the obituaries
of pilots that have died during the year? Yeah, 1 year it was like 3. The next year it was 7, and then this year it's 1,100 or something.
Yeah, that is that much, but well, maybe it was just the first page I saw a picture of. But yeah, I mean the increase was astronomical compared to previous years, and yeah, what's the reason for that? Well, presumably it's the virus or combination of the shots, and there's evidence now that would appear to indicate that if you've had SARS, that the vaccine might be the worst or the worst possible combination to have with respect to unwanted side effects. Or
Can I
like
ask
giving you
another?
shingles if you had chickenpox?
Can
right?
I
Just
ask
a catalyst?
Can I ask another stupid question?
Sure.
If they've never isolated the virus, then what are they testing for exactly? If they haven't isolated it, how do they test for it?
So they have isolated it. It's not. This is a sort of trope of, the
Is this
Kaufmans of this world.
So now, okay, so let me get this straight now, because now I'm under the impression that there's been a couple of lawsuits filed specifically around this isolation issue. And then I saw a thing that said 90 universities and, facilities all tried to isolate it and said they couldn't. And even that the CDC even said that they didn't.
Yeah, well, I'd like to see that, but what they tried to do, this was going around the UK and Ireland as well, was they say, give us an example of the virus isolated in situ, basically from humans, where we can see it without culturing it. So the stumbling block for people is this idea that you take a sample from someone. So the standard procedure would be.
It sounds like what you're saying is that the people that are asking for the evidence are setting up a scenario where it cannot be won. So they'll win because they can't be done what they're asking them to do.
Yeah,
right?
so it's like saying I want daffodils, but you can't. Those bulbs that you have don't look like daffodils, and you can't put them in the soil.
Okay,
right?
So not to say that people trying to find ways around this is bad. But what you're saying is don't put your eggs in that basket, because what we're being led to believe by some of these claims is not in actuality what's really going on. In other words, it has been isolated.
Yeah, it's been sequences are made all the time, right? It's how you're getting Omicron or whatever, the Delta variant. They can make and extract these sequences. Now, yes, there's this issue of you have to come to a consensus sequence, which is you culture enough of the virus, you break it down into smaller fragments of its genetic material, and then you have to say, okay, what's this sequence here, what's this sequence, and do they match together? And generally there's good consensus across a genome that they'll say, okay, we can see where the links would be made. And the chances of if you found one match, that would be, you could say, okay, that could come from a number of different proteins, for example, or genes, and then you can extend that out. But then the odds start increasing exponentially for you to have a coherent sequence that we can culture from, well, like bats, right? So we know that SARS is found in bats. It's the animal reservoir, right? So every species will carry a virome, like you have like bacteria, you have a biome as well. And so you can go around sampling and you can look for these different sequences, and you can say, this looks like SARS, and we can chase. Well, that's what they would do. They would chase it back and say, here, we've found a intermediate animal. That's what happened with the first SARS, if you're to believe their story.
Well, I think there's a specific line of thinking that's going along with taking this information that's not necessarily true, to take this information and say it hasn't been isolated, it doesn't exist. How can there be a variant to a virus that they haven't even found in the first place? And then how could they find the test and test for that variant? how would they know there was a variant if they hadn't specifically identified the first piece of it? So all the logic falls apart after that. And I think people are using this to try to get around the system, and I understand it, but at the same time, it's bad in the sense that if you go and say you go to your doctor and you get smart with your doctor and say, hey, blah blah, this hasn't been isolated. I don't want you to vaccinate my, I don't want that situation to be done, and with my child, and because of this reason, and then they say, well, you don't even know what you're talking about. It's like when Rand Paul was trying to grill Fauci, and Fauci pushed back to them and went, man, you don't even know what you're talking about. And you could see in that moment, Rand Paul wasn't sure if what he was saying was 100% scientifically correct, and he knew he was in a position of legal jeopardy. So I could see him. I could see the wheels turning in his mind when Fauci pushed back on him, because I'm sure. Can I ask you a question? If there's a set of data, what scientist is looking at it and what the reason they're looking at it is will make all the difference in the world in how it's interpreted by that scientist.
Yeah. So this is why they have these what they call consensus sequences, right? So say you get a dose of the Rona and you get taken into the hospital, and because you're next to Stanford, that's a research hospital,
right?
They'll take that sample and they'll say, okay, this looks like a case of COVID, where we can put this into our tracking program, and then they'll sequence your strain, right? And you have to understand that there's this idea of a swarm. You have a viral swarm, and there's lots of individual variation that can happen within that swarm, and that's where you can tilt it's evolutionarily into one particular advantageous strain. So this is the problem now with the vaccines, is that because everyone gets their immune system trained to the spike from 2 years ago, the virus itself will find a way to adapt around it. And this is how variants emerge. Now, you can argue that, well, you might have found that variant if you'd looked close enough, if you had you could get all the virus together and see which sequences stack up the most. And the Delta variant at the beginning would have been a very, very small signal in the consensus sequence that you were building, right? And it's these methods which bring this, and in a way, it's good to have this idea of consensus sequence, because it means people are independently pulling out this data, and unless they've backdoored, those Talpiot boys have backdoored everything and are just getting these machines to spit out nonsense or what they want, then I would err on the side of caution in this instance and say that the same methods that can identify rabies or whatever, think of a viral pathogen, they can culture it, and they can get imaging of it, and it's got to the point where they can literally slice through a virion a nanometer at a time, and we can get these 3D reconstructions out. So once you have visual evidence, and then you've got the molecular evidence and the genomic evidence, and then there's this step where it's called proteomics. So if you know the whole genome, right, from start to finish, you can make a prediction about what proteins will come out if you culture it, and that will always be fairly consistent, right? So and proteins, people understand isolating protein, right? This is something that we've been doing for a long time.
Okay.
And we can you can build up enough of this protein once you're culturing it in an artificial environment where it isn't being attacked by immune cells, and you're giving it optimal growth environment. It'll spit out lots and lots of this protein that it uses to take over a cell. And a lot of this, a lot of what these proteins do is essentially dampen down your immune response, right? And this is something that we're having to look at very, very carefully, because if we're dealing with so there's a phenomenon that's happening with vaccination where people, as Epic said earlier, but suddenly they're getting shingles all of a sudden, or all these other conditions are emerging after they've been exposed to the spike protein in these shots. Well, maybe there's this component in the spike protein itself which has this dampening effect on your body's ability to fight back.
Like herpes popping up and all this other stuff.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. And again, would they know about this? Yeah. If you read in the literature, you can find all manner of examples of different illnesses leading to other types of illness. And we're in uncharted territory as they're engaging in the world's biggest experiment right now. And they're making it such that there's no control group against which to compare. Because, well, thankfully in the US, there are people that just, they'll take their chances. Right? Who are you going to trust? Your creator or the head of Pfizer? So, I understand people being...
I'll tell you something that I noticed when I was sick, when I had cancer. There was this period of time where no other time in my life I never had rashes, I never had anything. But there's this period of time where I would get these rashes, like when I would touch plastic, like certain kinds of plastic. If I'd rest my arm on the armrest of a car, if the plastic had like certain, I think it was the ether in there or something, there was this whole period of time. And I thought I was getting rashes, man, but really what it was my, I had lymphoma, obviously. But what I really noticed was this specific spot on my leg where I would get this eczema on my leg. And this is why I'm bringing it up, eczema. I'm bringing this up because I noticed, okay, that I had this eczema down this where there's a bunch of lymph nodes on your leg. I had this rash there. This is where I would get this eczema. And when I went through the chemotherapy and everything and I got rid of the situation that was going on, I've never since then ever had eczema ever again. And so ever since then, when I thought back on myself before I got sick, like some of the things, the reason I had a backache was because, stuff was pressing against my spinal cord, that type of thing. You know what I mean? But the thing is that I don't even know if there's a correlation, but now that you're saying that this is popping up, this shingles thing is popping up with this vaccination, it makes me think back to my own personal observation. Like I say, I'm not a scientist. I haven't sat down and looked at a bunch of different people, but common sense would dictate to me that the reason that I was getting that eczema is because my body was pushing that toxin out, man. It was pushing it out of my body, and maybe that's what's going on with these shingles. Just some excretion happening because of what's happening with this whatever molecular thing is happening.
Well, there's an argument from the terrain theory side that says that viruses are just exosomes, and exosomes are just packaging of waste or toxins. Well, you could perhaps try to argue that, but things like herpes and shingles, it's very, very specific to nerve branches and fibers, and if it's a consequence of body toxicity why express it in one branch of the nervous system? Now we know herpes as a viral agent. I mean, that was one of the first that was really honed in on, and that there are many different types of herpes viruses.
Yeah. Well, I mean, certain people, when they get under stress, their system's under stress, their endocrine system, their adrenal glands are going. They get under stress, then that's when they have their inflammatory episodes, where it then becomes visible, and then it becomes blistered, and then it excretes the toxins, whatever those toxins are. So like people used to call them fever blisters. Little herpes things were called fever blisters. I want to ask you a question. You brought up amino acids earlier. So is there a would you say there's a table of amino acids that exists that everybody's working off of, that these same amino acids are present everywhere, they form in nature because this is what happens, and then we get this other thing where we have genetically modified organisms that are in our food that we ingest that then cause amino acids that don't exist in nature to then form in our bodies. Could this be part of the reason why you have these inflammatory problems across the board with people having this inflammation? Somebody mentioned lysine in the chat, and it's funny that they mentioned that, because I saw that earlier 2 months ago, I saw that was having some effect on the COVID thing. And what's interesting about that is I used to know someone who had herpes, and whenever they had an outbreak, they would take lysine.
Yep. So acyclovir, which is like one of the go-to antivirals, it's a form of lysine. It's very similar to lysine in its structure, and better to take lysine than acyclovir. I mean, if you've ever had to take it, sucks. I mean,
can you scientifically create an amino acid if you wanted to?
What is it? I mean, it's a benzene ring, and then on one of the positions, on one of the carbons, you'll stick an amino group and some other branch.
Well, what I'm saying is, if I have a certain genetically modified corn and it has something in it, and then I eat a genetically modified rice that has a certain something in it, and those two ingredients then cause a certain amino acid to happen if I combine those two ingredients. In other words, what I'm trying to get at is, what I'm wondering is if these amino acids that are so important to our body, that our body uses in ways that are integral part of our existing. I'm wondering if these artificial genetically modified organisms are causing these, and is this another form of biowarfare, is to cause amino acids to, sort of a combinant effect. When you reach this toxicity, then your immune system is degraded to a certain place, this type of thing.
Well, the sort of canonical view is that you ingest protein, it'll get broken down by enzymatic action, and the individual amino acids are made available to the body for repair and repair, basically, and other enzyme reactions.
So if you
are
had
there
it so
synthetic amino acids that you don't find in nature? Yeah, sure. Are they
could they be
being
empty?
expressed
Could they be
in?
empty? In other words, I'm buying genetically modified corn. I'm eating it, and the amino acids that I need for repair, they're there. In other words, they are amino acids, but they don't have any. In other words, they have seeds that die. They don't produce plants that have new seeds. They're Terminator seeds. Could genetically modified amino acids be Terminator amino acids? In other words, they don't have any value to your system for repairing yourself.
There are. I'm looking at it right now. So unusual non-natural amino acids. There are 20 natural L amino acids. There is a multitude of non-natural or unusual amino acids available that can be built into synthetic peptides. And these are, I know they use them for things like glues, like epoxy resin is synthetic amino acids. And could they be integrated via coding into an organism? My feeling is that you would have to be using the reservoir of amino acids available to the organism. Now, could they mess with that? Potentially, but what I think you would end up with though is a toxic protein, right? That wouldn't be able to be digested.
That's what I mean, because we see obese people. We see people that stuff their face, but they're still starving all the time. There's like everything you get is empty. The fruit that we get, these genetically modified fruits, is empty. Anything that has this aspect to it that's unnatural. It's like all of a sudden nature became incapable of perpetuating itself. That all of a sudden man had to get involved all of a sudden, which I find extremely interesting. And it's not just in one place, it's across the board. Here, let me make these fake trees. Here, let me make these fake bees. Here, let me make this. Here, let me make this artificial. Why do we need all this artificial shit? I mean, the planet was going perfectly fine a minute ago,
Well, so, the classic case being the Terminator seeds was that you can build in resistance, right, to the herbicide that they use, Roundup, right? And what they found was that so initially you get good crop yields because you can blast at a level that kills off other weeds, and then you're left with a relatively high crop yield. But then what they found was that they would get super weeds that would acquire resistance to the herbicide as well. So you have to use 5-10 times the amount than original.
If I was president of the world and one of my lackeys came up to me and said, "Hey, Jimmy, got this idea. We're thinking about building insecticide directly into the food. What do you think?" I'd say, "Off with your head, motherfucker." I'd say, "Off with your head." Man, listen, ladies and gentlemen, things have gotten out of control. And the only way you're going to get control is to take control of your own situation, because really, that's all you have control over at this point. It's a runaway train, man. And we're all on it together. And we'll hear every Monday through Friday, 10:30 Pacific. The Doc, McCarran Dojo is where you can find him. Thanks for being here, Doc. You can stick around for a bit if after the fact if you'd like. Epic Journeyman's here.
I gotta do a runner today. I've still got chores to do.
All right, man. Well, you better get to it, and you better do it. Hop to.
Yeah. So.
Hop to. All right. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me on,
guys. Oh, man. And, it's always an illuminating conversation whenever you stop by. All right. You guys, you ready to get out? Let's do it.
Definitely.
Let's get out of here, man.
Thanks for joining us, Doc.
See you guys.
All right.
We'll see
Take
you
it
guys.
easy.
It's a runaway train, ladies and gentlemen. Driver 8. REM. See you tomorrow night.